Next topic that we are going to see today is the liquid ratio. What do you mean by the term liquid ratio? The term liquid ratio means to say that how much liquidity is available with the company to pay off its debts. How much liquidity is available with the company to pay off its debt, that is indicated by the liquid ratio. Now if we look into the definition which has been described, or the characteristic which has been described, it says that, sir, liquid ratio is nothing but it measures the sufficiency of the firm. Sir, it measures the sufficiency of the firm to for cash resources to meet its short-term obligation. Now, sir, what is happening over here? Many a times in the public there is a confusion between the solvency and the liquidity. That's a solvency and liquidity both are same, but this is not the case. Solvency and liquidity are totally different, and which we are going to discuss right now. What does the solvency want to indicate? The solvency wants to indicate that the company is solvent enough to pay off all its obligations on a particular date. That means it is quite possible the company may not be available with the cash fund. The company may not be available with the cash fund in its bank balance or the cash balance, but the company is having other sufficient assets to pay off its debts. Sir, how can the sufficiency of assets will help to pay off its debts? The company will sell off those assets and company will realize the cash and company will be able to pay off the obligations on them. Now what will happen in case of liquidity ratio, that, sir, along with the solvency the company is also available with the liquid funds with it. That is, if I want to spend 15 lakh dollar right now, I am having the available fund in my bank balance so that I can pay off my 15 lakh dollars debt. So this is the difference between the solvency and the liquid ratio. Solvency indicates the all over position of a particular company, but liquidity indicates that's what available funds, what available cash resources are available with the company to pay off its debts. Moving further, sir, to meet its short-term cash liability. Now in the screen we can see that there are mainly three types of liquidity ratio which are been discussed in journal at a large. That is current ratio, acid test ratio, and cash ratio. Current ratio, acid test ratio, and cash ratio. Now if we go into the briefing of all these three types of ratio, what does it trying to indicate? Current ratio. Current ratio means, sir, what amount of current assets are available with the company at present so that its current liabilities could be paid off. How much amount of, or in how much proportionate, or in how much proportion the company is available with the current assets to pay off its current liabilities. Now, sir, if you look into the definition of the current assets means to say, sir, your account receivable, your inventory, your bank balance, your cash balance, your bills receivable, if any, and so on. Means all the things available in the current assets are included over here. Moreover, if we discuss about the current liabilities wants to say that these are your bank overdraft, your accounts payable, your bills payable, and so on things. If we analyze the thing further, current ratio or the current assets means that those are the assets which are going to be realized within the next 12 months from the end of the current balance sheet date that we are recognizing under the current assets. And current liabilities, that means that the amount which we are going to pay, in the next 12 months from the current balance sheet that are included in the current liabilities. Now if we if we look more into the same, sir, the short term consideration is only given in the case of liquidity ratio or in the current ratio. That means no long term assets, no long term funds are considered over here. So this is how the, sir, current ratio has been divided. Ideal ratio for current ratio is 2 is to 1. Sir, what does 2 is to 1 indicate? That, sir, for every rupee of current liability, for every rupee of current liability, for every dollar of the current liability, for every rupee of the current liability, for, yeah, either for every yen of the current liability, as the case may be, as the currency may be, $2, 2 yen, 2 rupee, current assets are available with the company. That means even after paying off the current liabilities, the company is still available with the current assets so that it can move on further in its business. So this is the ideal ratio which has been considered that it should be there. It can be considered as a benchmark also, and it is the ideal ratio that said for every dollar of liability, dollar to current assets should be available with the company. Now if we come and talk about the acid test ratio, what does the term acid test ratio wants to say in brief? Acid test ratio wants to say that how much quickly, how much quickly the available assets can be converted into cash. Sir, how much quickly? Sir, what do you mean? Sir, what do you want to say? That means there are certain current assets available with the company which can be easily converted into cash within no time, and there are certain assets available with the company which can be converted into cash, no doubt, but it will take some little time. We need to consider those assets which can be easily converted into cash within no time, because such assets are helpful in the time of uncertainties. For example, if any of the penalty has been levied unexpectedly on us, and we are having a short time period to pay the same, and assuming further that the cash balance is not available with the company, but such type of current assets are available with the company, available with the company, which can help which can help the company to pay off its debts, like marketable securities, cash balance, bank balance, and so on. Marketable securities are the most important thing which can be easily converted into cash within no time. And as a result, sir, company is considering those assets specifically also which can be easily converted into cash, and companies should have the consideration of those also, because at the time of uncertainty such type of assets will be very useful for the company to pay off its current liabilities. And that is the reason, sir, sometimes, sir, acid test ratio is also known as quick ratio, that how quickly you are able to convert your available current assets, some of the current assets, into cash. Moreover, moving further, looking into cash ratio. If you look into cash ratio in a brief, the company is specifically targeting on the cash. Only specifically cash means cash and cash equivalent, and sir, divided by current liabilities, sir. What does it indicate, sir? What amount of cash is specifically available with the company, or what proportion of cash is specifically available with the company in proportion to its current liabilities, and as a result, sir, liquid ratio considers generally three main type of ratios. First is current ratio. Current ratio. In current ratio, all types of current assets are being considered, whether they can be easily converted into cash or not easily converted into cash. If you look into a quick ratio indicates that how that only quick ratio indicates only those current assets which can be easily converted into cash in no time period to pay off the current liabilities in uncertain situation. And cash ratios are the company specifically target cash ratios. Company specifically targets cash ratios to indicate company specifically targets cash ratio to pay off its current liabilities. Now moving forward in the liquid ratio, sir, we first of all consider the current ratio. Sir, what does the current ratio want to say? It measures the company's ability to pay off. It considers the company's ability to pay off its current obligation that is within the year. Yes, sir, that is the reason I had told you that the current ratios formula is current assets divided by current liabilities. Now if we consider current assets divided by current liability, current assets are nothing but the assets which are going to be realized within the next 12 months from the end of the current balance sheet date, and current liabilities means that the amount which we are going to repay, or the obligation which we are going to, or the obligations which we are going to settle within the next 12 months from the end of the specific balance sheet date. Now that's why here it is been given that it measures the company's ability to pay off its current obligation payable within a year with its current assets, with its current assets such as cash, account receivable, and inventory. Yes, cash, account receivable, inventories, and so on. Such with the help of those current assets, your current liabilities would be paid off. Higher the ratio, better the company's liquidity position. Yes, if I consider, as I have discussed, that the ideal ratio is 2:1. If the company's liquidity position is so much strong that the current ratio comes to 2.5:1 or 3:1, what does it indicate? That for every $1 of current liabilities, the company is available. For every $1 of current liabilities, the company is available with $2.5 or 3 of the current assets. And as a result, sir, even after paying off all its current liabilities, the company would be in a position to have the surplus current asset which can be used further for the betterment of a particular business. Next, sir, if we try to consider ratio analysis, sir, in specific words, or in short, if I want to say what does current ratio means, the current ratio tells you if the company is managed well or not. Whether company's assets are more than its current liabilities or not, that is been told by the current ratio. Moving further, sir, current ratio, sir, as I discussed, sir, is formula, sir, wants to say current ratio divided by current asset divided by current liability is the formula for the current ratio. Now we now when we move forward in the given direction, quick ratio. What does the term quick ratio mean? Acid test ratio. What does it want to indicate? It wants to indicate that the company is available with such amount of things. The company is available with such amount of assets which can be easily converted into cash. Okay, fine. Company is always available with the cash balance, no doubt in that. But sometimes the liabilities or the uncertainties arises of such an extent. The liabilities and uncertainties arises of such an extent that the available cash fund may not be sufficient for you. The available cash balance may not be sufficient for you, and as a result, what will happen? Company needs to dispose of some of its assets, which can be easily converted into cash. Current assets are there, like inventories, like account receivable, but they are not so easily convertible into cash. That means they will take some time. But in case marketable securities, it will not at all going to take time. Within some time period, within some hours also, you can get the amount credited in your bank account. So company should have the ratio of all the types of assets, all the type of liquid way out, so that your current liabilities can be paid off in case of any uncertainties. Moving forward in the same direction, sir, looking that, sir, it evaluates the company's ability to meet its short-term obligation. It evaluates the company's ability to meet its short-term obligation with its most liquid assets. Here the word important, most liquid assets, like cash balance, bank balance, marketable security. They're the most liquid assets available with the company, which can be easily converted into cash within no time period. And it excludes inventories from its current assets. Yes, sir. There is a reason why, sir, the inventories are excluded from its current assets. The reason being, sir, inventories are held for the purpose of sale, and it may not be possible for some type of industry that you may have the cash sales. You can also have the credit sales also. Moreover, the inventories may take some time to get it sold. If for an example 1000 quantity of particular type of goods are available with me in the godown, then what will happen? The company will have to look for some time period, and consider that in how much time period the company is able to sell its inventory, like inventory turnover ratio, something like that. It will be considered over there, and as a result it is not considered as the most liquid assets, and as a result it is not considered as the most liquid assets, and that is the reason it has been excluded from the scope of calculating acid test ratio or quick ratio. Further, if I make the comparison between the current assets and the current ratio and the acid test ratio, the current ratio, what is there? In the current ratio, all the type of current assets are available with the company, so that company can have some satisfaction. Okay, today we are having $1 of current liabilities, not an issue. Within some time period, we will be in a position to pay off the debt. Now, but with the consideration of all type of current assets, but in case of liquid assets, or in case of quick assets, or in case of quick asset ratio, what is happening in that particular case? The company will be in a position to know how much quick amount of cash is available with the company to pay off its debts in case of any uncertainties. Moving forward, sir, what does it say? Quick ratio formulas are cash plus marketable securities plus account receivable. But account receivable are also considered up to certain extent the liquid or the asset or the quick component which can be easily converted into cash. And what will happen? The company may be required to give some extra amount of discount, so that the amount is being received from the account receivables, and as a result, sir, it is been considered under the quick ratio. Sir, if we check the formula for the acid test ratio, cash plus marketable securities plus account receivable divided by current liabilities, or we can simply say, if your current assets includes only four components, for example, if your current assets include only four commodities: cash plus marketable securities plus account receivable plus inventory, instead of writing all four components, you can write just simply current assets minus inventory divided by current liabilities. That will also provide you the meaning of the term quick ratio, and that will provide you the ratio, that how much amount of quick assets is available with the company how much amount of quick assets is available with the company in front of their current liabilities. Next type of ratio that we are going to see over here is the time interest earned ratio. What do you mean by term time interest earned ratio? It is also considered as an interest coverage ratio. This is the ratio which is covered under the liquidity ratio also as well as the solvency ratio also. That's why in both the topics it has been covered. What do you mean by the term interest coverage ratio, or rather we say time interest earned ratio? Interest coverage ratio means that whether we are having sufficient income, whether we are having sufficient revenue to cover our interest expense or our fixed obligation or our fixed liabilities. Yes, whether we are earning sufficiently so that our at least fixed commitments, so that at least our fixed commitments have been covered in a proper manner. What does it wants to say? It wants to say that it measures the proportionate amount of income used to cover the interest expense in the future. Yes, we are aware when we are preparing our books of account, we are aware that in the next year we are going to have X amount of interest expense. Now the company is having a target in its mind. Now the company is having a target in its mind that yes, we are required to earn at least this amount of money so that our fixed obligations are being duly met. In a formula has been given, very simple, sir. Whatever is used to be given in the denominator in any of the formula in the ratio analysis, we are considering that ratio from that particular component's viewpoint. We are considering that ratio from that particular component's viewpoint. That means that if I consider time interest earned ratio, it is to depend on the interest expense. That I am aware that what will be my interest expense over the next 12 months, and as a result what I will do, I will now consider I will consider and will try to match up to the revenue. Will try to match up to the revenue which is required as per the required interest expense, and that is the reason, sir, I am taking in the base interest expense, and sir, I am trying on the basis of the interest expense, I am trying to cover up my income, and as a result, sir, the formula for the same will be, sir, time interest earned ratio equal to, sir, EBIT or income before interest and tax divided by interest expenses. So moving forward in the same direction, so next ratio, that is cash ratio. What is the cash ratio is trying to indicate? The cash ratio is trying to indicate that it is the company's total cash and cash equivalent. So cash and cash equivalent, yes sir, specifically ratio is been given for cash, and that means the cash and cash equivalent is the ratio of the company's total cash and cash equivalent to its current liabilities. As compared to its current liabilities, how much amount of cash or cash equivalents is available with the company. Moving forward, it calculates company's liability. It also calculates the company's liability to repay short-term debt with readily liquidated cash. With readily liquidated cash resource. That means company now, as on date, company will not go to liquidated asset. Company is already having some resources in a liquidated form, and as a result, sir, it will be seen as, sir, the calculate the company's ability to repay short-term debt with readily available cash resource. That how much cash today is available with the company in proportion to its current liabilities. Moving forward, sir, if we look into formula, all the formulas, sir, cash ratio divided by cash and cash ratio equal to cash and cash equivalent divided by current liabilities. That means, sir, if we consider current ratio, if we consider quick ratio, if we consider cash ratio, in all the three formulas, sir, your denominator remains the same. That means your base remains the same. That is the current liability. And what does goes on change? That is, sir, your ratio. What does goes on change is, sir, your numerator part. Numerator part will change as per the requirement. That means, sir, if I consider current ratio, in that I am required to consider all my current assets, and as a result all my current assets will be considered in the same. Quick ratio, I need some amount which I can say that yes, in case is there any uncertainty, I will be in a position to repay my debts within a short time period, because I am having cash balance, that is pure cash available with me. And if that cash amount is not sufficient, I have certain amount of those assets only, those assets also which can be easily converted into cash. And as a result, sir, I will consider the current asset but excluding inventory. In the last, that is, sir, cash ratio. In the cash ratio, I will consider, sir, the only cash portion, already liquidated portion of my portion of my current assets. Moving forward, sir, operating cash flow ratio. So what do you mean by term operating cash flow ratio? The operating cash flow ratio wants to say that it is a cash from operating activity. That's a, see, cash can be available from various resources. You can either borrow a loan, you can borrow either a short-term loan, you can even finance, you can issue the new share capital, you can sell off your assets and so on thing. But company will be more interested, but the company will be more interested in generating the cash flow, but the company will be more interested in generating the cash flow from its operating activity, that is from business. Company should be very happy that I am earning so much amount of revenue, that my cash flow is also so good that I am not required to borrow the money or even to sell off my assets to repay my obligations. And as a result, sir, operating cash flow ratio is also required. So what does operating cash flow ratio want to say? It is a cash from operating activities as a percentage of current liability. Sir, yes, all these type of ratios are being based on the just the requirement of current liability, and as a result it has been said the current liability divided by cash flow from operations, or rather cash flow from operating activities available with the company.
Hello friends, now the topic that we are going to discuss over here is the earning per share, that is the EPS. So that is the most important thing in the coverage of the financial statement. Yes sir, EPS, earning per share. Sir, before learning about the EPS in the detail, let us discuss to whom the EPS is applicable or to whom the EPS information is most useful. Sir, the EPS information, if I say primarily, it is most useful to the shareholders or the stockholders, or rather I would say the owners of a particular organization. Owners of the particular organization, yes. Earning per share indicates that how much amount the company has earned for its shareholders. How much amount the company has earned for its shareholders. Sir, there is a difference between the earning which has been distributed to the shareholders and the earning which has been earned by the company and retained by the company itself. Yes, here I am talking about the amount which has been earned by the company for its shareholders. It is not compulsory, or the company is not in somewhat pressure to distribute the amount which they have earned from the respective business, and that is why, sir, it indicates that yes, company has earned per share X amount for its shareholder. They may not distribute the same. They may sometimes partially distribute the same. Sometimes they may fully distribute the same. But one thing is sure, such amount is the amount which has been earned for the shareholders, which may or may not be distributed as per the mutual agreement between the company and the stockholders. Moving into the definition, what is want to say, sir, is wants to say that, sir, it measures the company's net income per share. For example, I am having 10,000 shares of a particular company X. If I am having 10,000 shares of a particular company X, then in such case the company has earned, for example, $5 per share. That means $5 per share company has earned for all its shareholders. And if I am having 10,000 shares, then I can say that the company has earned $50,000 in total for me. And as a result, sir, the investor who are already invested in the company, or the potential investor, they would be keeping an eye on the company about its performance, because the at present investor would be seeing whether to keep such investment in this company or not based on the EPS of the company, and the prospective or the potential investor would see that whether we should invest in this company or not. And sir, the main thing that they would consider, that is the earning per share, because sir, we know if the earning per share of the company will go on the upper side, the growth of the company takes place, and as a result the market price of the company will market price per share of the company will also go on a higher stage. And as a result, sir, EPS is the most important component of the financial statement, rather I could say the end result of the financial statement, for which the financial statements are prepared to make the available the amount to the equity shareholders as their return on the investment made in the company. Dividend, sir, we have heard that the dividend is a return. Yes, dividend is the return earned, but I want to say that company pays dividend out of EPS only. So if the company has earned $100 as its EPS, the company will distribute either $20, $25, as the case may be, it is dividend. Dividend is the actual amount that they will receive in cash. But if the company has not given any dividend to the shareholders, then in such case EPS will also be the return, that yes, on $50,000 investment I got X amount of return, which is not received by me, but which is still there with the company. And in case such amount of growth is there, I can sell the shares in the market in the future at a higher price, because company's EPS is greater. And that is the reason, so it has been said that it measures the company's net income per share of the outstanding stock. We have discussed the basics of the EPS. Now we go in. Now if we go into the detailing of the same says that, sir, EPS, sir, what is the basic need or what is the basic objective of, sir? We will try to understand. First of all, if we look into the topic, there are two type of EPS basically been calculated by the company. First is basic EPS and second is diluted EPS. Basic EPS means, sir, we are just calculating our net income available to the equity shareholders divided by the weighted average capital or the weighted average outstanding stock for the particular year. Sir, why, sir, it has been taken as, sir, weighted average stock? Reason being, there is quite possibility that during a particular year, if I am considering a year, financial year from 1st January 2019 to 31st 12 2019, it may be quite possible that during this time period the company may have issued additional shares. Company may have issued more equity stock in the market. Now what will happen during the year? Some more share capital will be infused in the company. Now we need to give the credit or the equal rights to all the shareholders. Reason being, if we consider one thing, there were total 10,000 outstanding stock or the outstanding shareholders at the beginning of the year, that is 1st January 2019. Now they have invested their money from so long, and their money has been used since the 1st January 2019. If I assume that during the mid of the year, that is from approximately 1st July 2019, on that particular date the company has issued more share capital in the market, and as a result all were subscribed. I am further assuming that 2000 shares were issued in the market and 2000 were subscribed by all. Now what will happen? Total share capital available with the company in terms of number of stock will be 12,000 in the units with the company as on 1st July 2019. Now what will happen at the end of the year? What will happen as on 31st 12 2019? Company has made business for the half of the year with the amount which was subscribed or which was contributed by the shareholders as on 1/1/2019, and company for the second half, that is from 1st July 2019, the company has made the business or company has run the business with the help of the share capital or the equity stock of both the shareholders, that is the shareholders before 1st July 2009 and after 1st July 2019 also. Now what will happen in the given case? If we calculate the EPS on a simple average basis, if we divide it by for X amount profit, I am assuming 1,20,000 is the profit, and I am taking a simple average or the number of shares available, that is 12,000 shares, that is $10 per share will be available with the company. Now it will be a dissatisfaction from the shareholders. Why, sir? Because our amount, the old shareholders, that those were before 1st July 2019, our amount was invested before 1st July 2019, and we are getting the same benefit in compared to the benefit which is given to the shareholders whose amount was invested for just 6 months, and our money, the people who were invested amount before 1st July 2019, their money was invested in the company for 12 months. New shareholders amount was invested in the company for 6 months. Now this ratio will not be acceptable to the old shareholders, and as a result the weighted average share will be calculated by the company and considering the time range, and as a result proportionate amount of equal distribution will be made. And as a result, the logic behind the same which has been given in the US GAAP is that the amount invested in the company for any time period, the benefit should also be given in respect of the time period for which the amount was invested in the company. That means the shareholders who have invested the amount after 1st July 2019 should get the proportionate amount of benefit only, and the shareholders who were shareholders with the company before 1st July 2019, I am assuming for the full year, they should get the more benefit out of the company's profit. Reason being that their amount was invested for the full year, and as a result they should be given more benefit, and as a result the concept of weighted average shares was been given in the US GAAP. That is why the basic EPS has been calculated. Now if we look into the concept of diluted EPS, sir, why does the concept of diluted EPS occurs? If in a particular company there are potential shareholders, so what do you mean by the term potential shareholders? If in a company there are existing convertible securities like convertible shares, convertible preference shares, convertible debentures, convertible bonds, convertible loans, and any such things about which the company as a whole and the shareholders are aware that not today but in the future time period, maybe after a period of 1 year or 2 year, as the case may be, those security holders are going to be converted into the equity stockholders, and as a result what will happen, their proportionate share will decrease, their percentage will decrease, and their EPS will be divided. The EPS of the old shareholders who were originally the shareholders of the company, their EPS would be divided among the potential shareholders of the company, and as a result the shareholders may decide to withdraw the amount from the company, and as a result the year from which the company issues the convertible securities, from that particular day the company also starts disclosing the diluted EPS. Diluted EPS, sir, what does it want to say? In the diluted EPS, company compares it basic EPS and diluted EPS and says that maximum up to what amount the EPS of the company can get reduced. For example, my basic EPS is $5 per share, and due to the potential investors in the company, the EPS has gone to $3 per share. Now, due to the disclosure of $3 per share of diluted EPS, a company wants to say that up to $3 only the EPS can go down and not more than that. Up to $3 per share only the EPS can go down and not more than that, and as a result existing shareholders are aware. As a result, the existing shareholders are aware that yes, our basic EPS or our EPS will maximum go up to $3 per share. Sir, I am using the word maximum, that it is quite possible the EPS may go down up to only 3.5 per share, but $3 is the maximum amount up to which the EPS of the company can go down, and as a result the shareholders are aware from very beginning that yes, in the coming time period our EPS will be reduced up to a certain extent. But yes, every year the basic EPS and the diluted EPS will change, and accordingly every year the shareholders will get a new amount of future EPS, and as a result the data which has been available with the company as on the balance sheet date, the diluted EPS will be calculated on the such basis only, and as a result on that day only company promises that sir, your basic EPS can go maximum down up to $3. This is what about the diluted EPS and basic EPS. Formula for the EPS that has been given under the US GAAP has been described as under. What does it want to say? Sir, it wants to say that EPS equal to net income minus preferred dividend divided by end of the period shares outstanding. Sir, important concept here is that sir, they are deducting the preferred dividend. What, sir? Why, sir? Because sir, they are specifically talking about the equity stockholders. They are specifically talking about the equity stockholder. Reason being, preferred shareholder are given their fixed amount of percentage every year, so they are not concerned about much, because they are aware that we are going to get the fixed amount every year what the condition of the company may be. But the equity stockholders or the main shareholders are the person who are getting the residuary amount only, and that is the reason we need to deduct the preferred dividend. Also considering it as our liability, we need to deduct it while calculating the income which is specifically available for the equity stockholders. Now it has been given that it is to be divided by the end of the period shares outstanding. Why it has been given? Reason being, it is quite possible that there is no change between the opening number of equity stock and the closing number of equity stock. There is no change, and as a result what will happen, the opening and closing would remain same, and there will be no need to calculate weighted average number of shares. There will be no need to calculate the weighted average number of shares, and if the company has issued or given back, or the company has refunded certain number of equity shares to the equity shareholders, then there will be certain changes during the particular time period in the quantity of equity stock, and as a result what will happen, the company is required to calculate weighted average number of equity shares to give justice to all the type of equity shareholders, and as a result this formula has also been given: net income minus preferred dividend divided weighted average shares outstanding on a particular balance sheet date. Moving forward in the same direction, so what does it want to say? A simple example has been given, which we have discussed in the diluted EPS concept, that some of the convertible securities which are being converted into the which will be converted into the number of equity option, then how they will affect the earning per share and the diluted EPS of a particular company. Moving forward, sir, what does it want to say? Another concept, that is book value per share. What does it want to indicate? It wants to indicate that what amount is remaining with the company if the company is being liquidated today based on the values described in our books of accounts. Why, sir, based on the values based on the values described in our books of account? Reason being, the company uses or the company describes the purchase price of any particular asset in its books of account, not rather than the fair value. Yes, if particular accounting or if the particular accounting standard requires under US GAAP for its requirement, that is fine, but generally the company used to describe the purchase price or the historical cost or the book value in its books of account. Now what will happen if, as on a particular date, the company wants to know or the shareholders wants to know what is the amount available with us on a per share basis if today the company goes on into liquidation? That means after selling your all the assets and after paying all the liabilities including the preferred dividend, what will be the amount remaining with the company? And that has been described to the book value per share. That means it describes the value of the company in its books of account, value of the equity shares on an individual basis in its books of account, and as a result book value per share has been described. What does it want to say? It wants to say that it is a tool to calculate per share value. It is a tool to calculate per share value based on the common shareholders in the company, based on the common shareholders or the stockholders equity in the company. It indicates the dollar value remaining. It indicates the dollar value remaining for the common shareholders after all assets are liquidated. Means I said that if today the company goes into liquidation and the company sell off all its assets and as well as pays off all the liabilities using the remuneration of the using the remuneration of the asset sold, what will the amount remaining with the company? And all the debtors are being paid, and all the debtors are paid, that means all the debtors have paid us the amount to the company. Now moving further, what does the formula say? Sir, this formula says that book value per share is equal to shareholders equity minus preferred equity divided by total outstanding common shares. Yes, as we have discussed, the company includes the liability for the preferred equity and just deduct the same to make available the amount to the equity stockholders, which are getting the residuary amount remaining after all the liabilities and all the expenses, all such terms and conditions, all such events have been completed, and the residuary amount will be given to the equity stockholders. Moving further in the given direction, what does it wants to say? A new topic, market value per share. We have discussed book value per share. What does the book value per share wants to say? The value which is available for the company's equity stockholders, outstanding stockholders, if the company goes into liquidation. But there is another concept called market value per share. What does the market value per share wants to say? Sir, the market value per share wants to say that it represents the value of the company according to the stock market. Yes, there is a concept called market capitalization, that what is the value of the company in reality, that is a fair value, we can say, just for the understanding purpose, that sir, what is the fair value of the company in the reality. That means in the market or in the stock market, I specifically say the market price of the shares will be different than as of the company's book value per share, and the number of outstanding stock will remain the same. Number of outstanding stock remaining in the books of account as well as in the market will remain the same. The what will differ is the price which is been quoted in the stock market and the price which is been derived in the books of the company. As a result, sir, this market value per share represents the value of the company according to the stock market, which will be the real value. It represents the price of the asset that would get at the marketplace. Yes, using certain financial management tools and the given concept, using the market value per share, we can also derive the fair value of the assets, and we can come to know that what will be the value which in reality we will get if we sell our assets today. Because sir, in the concept of fair value, one line it has been given a very important, in a one line it has been given sir on a measurement date. That means sir, on a given particular date I want to know what will the value of the assets if it is been liquidated today. Moving forward in the same direction sir, aggregate market value of the company sir, it will also consider the aggregate market value of the company if it is sir considering the market value per share. And sir, last one and nothing, it is computed based on the current market price of its share. That means sir, on the current market price which is prevailing in the market, based on that sir, your market value or the market price per share is being calculated. Now we move forward in the market value per share concept and look into the formula of the same. The formula, what does it indicate? Market value per share formula equal to current market price per share which is available in the stock market multiplied by total number of shares outstanding. That will give market capitalization. There is a concept called market capitalization. What does the concept of market capitalization wants to say? The concept of market capitalization wants to say that what is the market value of the company as per the stock market which is been prescribed at all the recognized or the unrecognized or the unrecognized stock exchange as the case may be. That means how much amount of portion as it is been held by such a company, it can also be said like that. And as a result sir, we can easily compare the book value and the market value. Now let's friend consider a situation. If I'm an investor, or rather I would say better way that I am a potential investor and I am looking forward to invest in the particular company. Now I will consider the market value per share, but obvious it is that, and I will also consider book value per share. Now if I compare market value per share and the book value per share sir, both of them are going to be totally different. That is one thing. But which situation is giving indication of what, that we need to understand. That we need to understand that sir, what is the given situation tells about. Now if we talk about that, if a particular comparison has been made between two particular things, if a particular comparison has been made between two particular things, there are only three possibilities available generally. What are they? That if I take an example, if I compare the particular product A and product B and its quality wise, what are the outcomes which can occur? That product A is better than product B, product B is better than product A, or the product A is equal to product B. That means the quality of both the products are similar. It is indicating the same. That means a product A is better than product B, product B is better than product A, or the product A is equal to the product B's quality. Now sir, what I want to say, when we compare the market value and the book value per share of a particular company, there are three possibilities. Where first, market value is greater than the book value is greater than the market value, or the book value are equal to market value, which is almost a rare thing. When book value market value comes together and they are equal, which is a very rare thing. Now if we discuss sir that the book value is greater than market value, if we say sir that a book value is greater than market value, that means your shares are undervalued in the market. That means your shares are undervalued in the market, and as a result what will happen, it is an investment opportunity for a particular type of investor. For it is a particular investment opportunity because your company is undervalued and those shares can be easily purchased at a very lower price, and as a result the investor can get a huge amount of benefit from the same. That is the first indication. When the book value is greater than the market value, that means it is a great investment opportunity for a particular investor. Now if I consider about the second thing, when the market value is greater than book value, when the market value is greater than book value, what does it indicate? That your books are being undervalued, that the values in the books given are being undervalued, and which needs rectification. And the investor consider that yes, the real worth of company is only $20 if I assume, and the market value is $100. That means somewhere there may be indication that the market value has been overpriced, so I should wait for some time when the market price of the company comes down for the purpose of investment. Yes, but it is a good opportunity for the person for the investor who is existing one and wants to sell the and who wants to sell its securities in the market because he's aware book value is lesser, market value is overpriced, and if I sell at the overpriced, then the particular investor will get the benefit more out of the same, and as a result it will have a great opportunity for the seller who wants to gain a benefit from the sale of the particular company shares. Last situation that we have discussed, that is the book value is equal to market value. That is the book value is equal to market value. That means your book value market value almost same or are equal, but this is a very rare situation because in the books of account the values are been given at the historical price or the purchase price, if I say particularly, and in the market value you are given the fair value which goes on changing day by day, and as a result it is a very rare situation, but yes, possibility is there, and that's why it was discussed over here. Next ratio that we are going to discuss over here is the market to book ratio. What is the market to book ratio wants to say? Sir, it is nothing but simply compare the market value of the market value along with the book value that we have seen previously in the separate topic of book value per share and market value per share. Sir. Formula is also the same in a similar type, only it has been discussed. What is the formula here given is there as a market price per share divided by book value per share. What does it wants to say? That when your book value is $10, how will your market value will be affected? This ratio wants to say if your book value changes, how your market value will be affected, because sir, we have discussed earlier also, sir, whatever there is in the denominator of a particular formula, that is the base due to which the numerator will be affected accordingly, and as a result, sir, here we can say that, sir, in the market value changes according to the changes in the book value, then how it changes, how it occurs, how it affects, it is being shown by the market to book ratio. Moving forward in the same direction, sir, if we look into the formula says a market to book ratio equal to market capitalization divided by total book value. We have discussed the concept of market capitalization also and of the total book value also. That means, sir, if your total book value changes, your market cap also changes. It has been said that, sir, when your book value changes, market cap also changes. It has been shown by this market to book ratio. Moving forward in the same direction, sir, it wants to say when there is a comparison, sir, basically we are comparing only, and now we need to say when we are comparing the same, sir, what are the analysis or what are the analytic thing we need to consider. First of all, sir, undervaluation when it is less than 1. Sir, your market value is been undervalued when the given ratio comes less than 1. Sir, if the given ratio is less than 1, what does it indicate? It indicates that there is an investment opportunity for the potential investor if they want to invest. That means, sir, your book value is more and as compared to market value, and as a result your market is undervalued and it is an investment opportunity for a particular type of potential investor. Moreover, overvaluation. There is an overvaluation of your book data that we need to correct and that we need to rectify and look into the consideration. That is the meaning if the undervaluation is there, and sir, when the undervaluation will be there, when your ratio is less than 1. When will the overvaluation? When it is greater than 1. That means, sir, we can say that standard ratio is 1:1. It will occur when the book value is always equal, when the book value is equal to market value, and sir, it is overvaluation when it is greater than 1. What does it indicate? Overvaluation, book values are dynamic, so your book value is greater, sir, and as a result, sir, what will happen? Your book value is greater? Not at all. Your book value is greater? Not at all, sir. Your book values are dynamic, it changes regularly, and as a result, sir, your ratio is greater than 1. Next, sir, undervaluation. Book values are accounting figures. Yes, sir, book values are just, sir, accounting figures, and as a result, sir, it will give the resultant effect.
If you like this video, share it with your friends. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to watch more such videos and learn from our expert faculty members. Press the bell icon to get regular notifications whenever we upload a new video. Download NDI mobile app to get complete CA course online. We value your support. Thank you for watching.